You've probably seen rice wine in a bottle, but have you ever wondered what's happening inside that glass? Fermentation is a complex dance of microbes, sugars, and time. Rice wine isn't just made of rice and water. It's a carefully orchestrated chemical reaction, driven by yeast and bacteria working in harmony. What you don't see is the invisible world of microbes transforming starch into sugar, then into alcohol, and finally into something truly special. This process isn't just about chemistry. It's a blend of science, tradition, and patience, with each step influencing the final flavor and quality. The journey from grain to glass is a delicate balance of temperature, time, and technique, something even the most experienced brewers will tell you is never perfect. So, what's the secret to good rice wine? It starts with understanding the invisible forces at play, and that's exactly where we're going next. Rice wine fermentation is a delicate alchemy, where rice, water, and yeast converge in a controlled, living process. It's not just about brewing. It's about coaxing life from starch through a series of biochemical transformations. At its core, fermentation is the conversion of starch into sugar, then sugar into alcohol, driven by microorganisms, primarily yeast, but also bacteria and molds, each playing a specific role in the process. Different strains of yeast can produce vastly different flavors. Some create more acidity, others more sweetness, and some even contribute to the development of complex esters and aromatic compounds. In traditional methods, the rice is often steamed, then inoculated with a culture known as sake starter or koji. This starter is the foundation of the entire fermentation process, introducing the microbes that will transform the rice into a complex, living beverage. Rice wine isn't just a drink. It's a mirror of your environment. The microbes that ferment your rice are the same ones shaping the soil, air, and water around you. They're not just transforming grain into liquid, they're transforming your ecosystem. Every batch of rice wine carries a fingerprint of its origin. The temperature, humidity, and even the type of rice you choose all influence the microbial composition. This is why a glass of rice wine can taste like home, even if you're thousands of miles away. The fermentation process is a silent conversation between you and the microbes. The way you handle the rice, the time you let it rest, and even the air you expose it to. Each choice shapes the final flavor and aroma. This is microbiology in your kitchen. When you ferment rice wine, you're not just making a drink. You're participating in an ancient symbiotic relationship with the natural world. You're giving life to microbes that have been evolving for millennia, and in return, you're tasting the results of that evolution. This is why you should secretly care about rice wine fermentation. It's not just about taste. It's about understanding the invisible forces that shape your world. Every sip is a reminder that you're part of something much bigger than yourself. Rice wine fermentation has roots in the Yellow River Valley over 5,000 years ago. Ancient texts like the Shang Dynasty inscriptions describe early methods of soaking and fermenting rice for ritual and sustenance. By the Han Dynasty, rice wine had evolved into a refined craft, with specialized vessels and techniques passed down through generations. Fermentation was understood as a balance of heat, time, and microbial activity. During the Tang and Song dynasties, rice wine production spread across China, and its role expanded from ritual use to social and medicinal purposes. Scholars documented the science behind its transformation. The Ming and Qing dynasties saw the rise of regional varieties, each adapting to local climates and ingredients. Fermentation methods became more precise, with a growing understanding of microbial cultures. Today, while industrial methods dominate, the essence of ancient fermentation techniques remains embedded in artisanal practices. These traditions preserve the complexity and depth of rice wine's flavor and aroma. So, imagine you're making a special drink from rice. Like magic happens when you let it sit and grow. It's like when you put seeds in water and they sprout. This is for rice. The rice starts to change. It becomes a little sticky and soft, like when you let bread rise. That's the first step in making the drink. Then You mix it with some special stuff, like yeast, and let it sit in a warm place. It's like when you bake a cake, but the cake is growing on its own. The mixture starts to bubble and smell a bit like fruit, which means the magic is working. That's how the drink gets its flavor and fizz. After a few days, you open it up and the drink is ready. It's like when you grow a plant, but instead of leaves, you get a delicious drink. The first step in rice wine fermentation is the setup, preparing the rice, the water, and the fermentation vessel. This is where the foundation of the process is laid, and precision is key to a successful batch. The rice must be washed, soaked, and steamed to the perfect texture. Crisp, but not mushy. This step ensures the grains are fully hydrated and ready to convert sugars into alcohol. Once the rice is prepared, it's mixed with water in a ratio that balances hydration and sugar concentration. This mixture is then inoculated with rice koji, which introduces the necessary enzymes for fermentation. The final part of the setup is transferring the mixture into the fermentation vessel. This is where the environment is controlled: temperature, humidity, and airtight seal, to allow the fermentation process to begin. Once sealed, the jar is placed in a dark, stable location where the fermentation will slowly start. This is the moment the magic begins, and the transformation of rice into rice wine is set in motion. The fermentation process begins with the conversion of sugars into alcohol and carbon dioxide by yeast. This is a biochemical reaction that relies on the presence of specific enzymes and the right environmental conditions. Yeast consumes the glucose present in the rice, breaking it down into ethanol and releasing carbon dioxide as a byproduct. This process is highly dependent on temperature and oxygen levels. As fermentation progresses, the yeast population stabilizes, and the production of alcohol reaches its peak. This stage is crucial for developing the flavor and aroma of the final product. The fermentation environment must remain stable to prevent contamination and ensure the yeast continues working efficiently. Any fluctuation in temperature or pH can alter the outcome drastically. Once the fermentation process is complete, the rice wine is ready for stabilization and bottling. This marks the end of the biological transformation and the beginning of the preservation phase. Now, we reach the clever twist: the fermentation kick. The rice, once steamed and cooled, is inoculated with a special culture of yeast and bacteria, often derived from rice bran or a mother mash. This culture is the key to unlocking the full flavor and complexity of the final product. This step is critical because it introduces the microbial community that will break down sugars into alcohol and carbon dioxide. The balance of yeast and bacteria determines whether the rice wine will be sweet, dry, or somewhere in between. This is where the fermentation really starts to take hold. The microbes begin to multiply, and the rice mixture becomes a rich, bubbling ecosystem of life. The rice itself changes texture, becoming softer and releasing a subtle aroma that hints at the future of the wine. This phase is delicate, requiring patience and careful observation. Any disturbance, like overventilation or temperature fluctuation, can skew the microbial balance and ruin the batch. This is where the art of fermentation truly meets the science. This clever twist, the introduction of the culture, is what differentiates a good rice wine from a great one. It's the moment when the transformation begins, and the rice becomes not just a base, but the canvas for a complex, living drink. At the heart of rice wine fermentation lies a complex interplay of microbes, each playing a distinct role in transforming starch into sugar, then into alcohol. The key players are yeast and bacteria, both of which thrive in the anaerobic environment of the fermentation vessel. Yeast, specifically Saccharomyces cerevisiae, is the primary driver of alcohol production. It consumes the sugars produced by bacteria and converts them into ethanol and carbon dioxide through a process called glycolysis. The bacteria, mainly from the Lactobacillus genus, produce lactic acid, which lowers the pH of the fermentation medium. This acidic environment not only enhances flavor, but also inhibits harmful pathogens, ensuring a safe and controlled fermentation process. Temperature is a critical factor that influences the metabolic rates of both yeast and bacteria. Too hot, and the microbes may die. Too cold, and the process slows significantly, risking off flavors or incomplete fermentations. The final stages of fermentation are marked by a subtle shift in the liquid's texture and aroma, as the yeast settles and the flavors deepen. This is when the true character of the rice wine begins to emerge, shaped by the delicate balance of microbial activity. Think of rice wine fermentation like a slow, silent dance between microbes and grains. The yeast doesn't just eat the rice. It transforms it layer by layer into something alive and complex. Each grain is a tiny universe, a world of potential waiting to be unlocked. The warmth of the environment is like a signal, telling the microbes it's time to start their work. The process is not rushed. It's a slow, deliberate act of transformation. Like a composer writing a symphony, the microbes play their parts in perfect harmony. And just like a symphony, the final product is the result of countless tiny decisions: temperature, time, and the balance of life in the jar. So in the end, rice wine is not just a drink. It's the echo of a microbial symphony, played out in the quiet of a jar. Before you go, if you enjoyed this, please give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell us in the comments what you'd like us to make next. We read every single one. Thank you so much for watching. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end.